The thought of entrepreneurship conjures up images of excitement, adventure, and a fair amount of risk. Some people say this is the best time in India to have a startup of your own, and many of you out there I know are closet entrepreneurs. But what does it take to be an entrepreneur in India? That's what we're looking at with a very special panel that now joins us today. Sari Chahal, founder, rosy.in, is with us, as is Anurag Gupta, MD India SVG Media. Navneet Rai, co-founder Tolexo.com, and also joining us, Yashish Dahiya, CEO and co-founder at policybazaar.com. Thanks all so much for taking our time to speak to us. Sari, to you first. You know, when I've been reading a profile of many of you and actually of entrepreneurs, they're described over and over again as serial entrepreneurs. That, you know, once they start, once they get bitten by the bug, then there's just no looking back. How true is that, or are we romanticizing it?
I think it's a personality type, and once you get in the habit of creating something, it's almost like taste of blood. Once you've done something, you want to do it over and over again.
Right.
And yes, there are other factors that sort of add to it. If we were talking 20 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have the same opportunities, the same kind of trends, the same kind of ecosystem. But today there is, and I think I did my first startup when the first .com boom happened, and I did go and work in the corporate space just to see what is that world like, do I fit in there, and I definitely very quickly realized that I'd rather be out and building a company or building a product.
Right. Now tell me one thing, when you say that it's like tasting blood, sort of does that work only if you have a big success at your feet? Or because, you know, a number of people I've spoken to have very honestly said, you know, for instance, that it didn't work, but that didn't stop me from embarking on something else.
Yes, so then that's very much true. It isn't only about success. In fact, I think success makes you slightly complacent because your risk-taking appetite goes down. But if you've tasted failure and you've seen some success and you see potential, then you're in it for the go. You are going to go for the kill, or at least it'll keep you going for a long time. And if you see potential, you see there is a possibility to fill in a gap that you've identified, then there's definitely no stopping you.
Yashish is someone who's sort of into the insurance world, works so closely in the insurance space and all of that. There are of course no guarantees when you sort of start off on your own. So, you know, to all those who say that it's a huge risk, it's a gamble. It is at the end of the day, isn't it?
I wouldn't say so. When I look at myself and a lot of entrepreneurs, they are actually fairly risk averse. Risk just needs to be defined, and for me the bigger fear is what if you did not do it. That is the bigger risk, because, you know, like, as far as I can see, the bigger risk is for me being in an office job and kind of spending the rest of my life that way, and or not changing the world the way I want to. So not doing that is the bigger risk. The bigger risk is sitting in a ship which you don't know where it is headed, and you're just one cog in the thing, and, you know, the ship may crash, you know, who knows.
That's quite exemplary, I must say. You know, as someone who, I've always believed that about myself, that don't have an appetite for risk, I just find that exemplary. But we've got lots of people, you know, writing into us, Anurag, who also say things like, you know, I'd love to, but my parents say, you know, why do you want to take this risk? They're not risk averse, you know, as Yashi says, but, you know, they want me to go to the tried and tested. At the same time, we've got people saying, got a great idea, but, you know, I have to convince parents of other people, other youngsters, to say, let them work with me. I mean, it's worth exploring this.
Today, you know, when we've seen, you know, entrepreneurs making, you know, success stories, and we have fairly large number of them in India happening, I think that stigma is reducing. So therefore, it still remains, however. It's not that, you know, it's gone away. So yes.
But there's less sort of friction, you're saying?
Yes, it's lesser, and I think it's decreasing by the day, you know, because of so many stories that come out, thanks to the media, thanks to, you know, the active investors, the investing
community. It's more
community.
acceptable a thing now. It's okay.
It's getting there, yeah.
Navneet, what do you believe has been the biggest challenge sort of on your road so far, on your journey so far? What is the one time, because I know that there, even for the biggest sort of success stories behind, there's a lot of blood, sweat and tears, like there is with most things. So have you sort of personally come to the point of saying, I don't know that I can do it, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, and like coming close to sort of giving up? Does that happen, or is that again sort of seeing it through rose-tinted glasses or something?
Sure. So I think on this journey there are four set of things which you have to sort of juggle or sort of make an effort so that they fall in place. One is obviously the very idea on which you are giving your blood and sweat to. Second is, of course, the entire fundraising exercise,
Right.
which for an entrepreneur is always attached to a milestone. Correct? So it's not about the final milestone, that is profitability and a self-sustainable business, but then there are 4 or 5 phases, right, through which a small company needs to hit the more matured product, right? So that's the life cycle, and the finance is pretty much pegged to not the final one, but to the immediate next month, and you are on a runway with 18 months of life and 24 months of life. I do see that as a risk, because the milestones have to be relevant enough, right? And that's where an entrepreneur needs to have a knack that what or where he or she is leading the team to be, or mobilizing the resources is leading to eventually meaningful achievement of those milestones, so that same investor looks at it or more investors starts looking at it. Second is, of course, the risk is of building a team.
And that's a big point, isn't it? Because I mean, there are lots of people who say that getting that team together of like-minded people turns out to be a big challenge. You're agreeing with that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why is that?
I think that ultimately it might be your idea. You're pretty much setting the tone for your business. You're setting the tone for the product market fit, but it's your team that carries it forward. It's your team that builds it out. It's your team that articulates it to the next set of people who come in. So you're setting the DNA of an organization in place, and that's pretty much, I think, the defining feature for a company. It's nothing but the team that carries it forward. For example, in our business, it definitely needs a huge alignment with the vision that we have.
Would you sort of agree, getting that team together, because I had someone tell me just a couple of days ago that it's not the idea, or it's not, many people have great ideas, it's not perhaps not even the business plan, but the team, that person seemed to think that the team was my biggest challenge.
I think, idea is one part of it, and I think I would give it about 5 to 10%.
That's it.
But the remaining 90-95% will eventually depend on execution.
Right.
And you cannot do it all alone. And I think the team has to be very special. They have to obviously not just believe in the vision and the leadership, but they themselves have to be very exceptional people who, because as times proceed, as you build out a business over the next 7-10 years, they will all get opportunities to do something else. Some of them will not evolve. Some of them, so all those challenges will come, and you need to find those exceptional values in those individuals rather than skill. I would never hire somebody for skill. I would usually hire them for those values, which over time will make sure that when the hard time comes, they do evolve. When the crazy opportunities run by, they just ignore them, because they just know that this has to be done, and all these kind of visions, as you say, or whatever, as these illusions are there, but they're just passing. So, and they have to eventually believe in. So you have to build that rapport, that respect, where they are willing to follow you to the end of the world. Because if that is not there, then it's a tough environment out there, and it's going to take a long time. And they will be, you asked about ups and downs. I remember almost every week we would kind of think, okay, the company is finished, and the next week we would think, okay, we're on top of the world. So those ups and downs are part of the initial journey.
I see. So like I said, there are no guarantees, and perhaps you take each day as it comes. I mean, is that until you sort of settle down?
You never settle down. So you never settle down.
Are there sort of like, eventual goals that everyone has? That I will reach here, and then what? What will I do post? Or like, how does it sort of work? I'm going to get into the mind of a serial entrepreneur, Sairi, and sort of figure out how does it, do you already have your next venture sort of in the pipeline or the back of your head?
Yeah, so sometimes some of your disruption may not come from another venture.
Sure.
Sometimes, one mandate is big enough to pretty much take you through a lifetime if it will. So for example, when we started, we wanted to sort of figure out this whole category of how do you solve a problem. We found a problem, we wanted to solve it. We were not focusing on revenues or business or whatever. We took a shot at it and we figured something. And now we have goalposts which keep changing, right? So an immediate goalpost would be to put 1 million women in workforce in the next 3 years. The bigger goalpost would be to take it to 10 million in 5 years. The larger goalpost says, hey, 100 million women in 10 years, and we got to do it. And so there's prep for for today and there's prep for the 100 million.
Correct.
But every day will be a different day. So my first venture was a newspaper for mariners. It was a venture that became up and running in 3 years, and I had literally no work by end of third year, and I moved out because it didn't sort of excite me anymore, because problem solving died. It became a job at the end of the day, and I moved out because I wanted to do more. But here where we are, I think we have a long way to go in terms of the kind of problems we want to solve.
Right.
If you look at Google, or if you look at Facebook, they're still solving a different kind of problems,
Exactly.
aligned with the mission of connecting the world, or making things better for internet users.
Right. So it never really ends. I mean, you sort of like are constantly working at it. I mean, to use a cliche, I mean, you always say that, the passion must never run out if you're an entrepreneur, because that's the end of that. Would you sort of agree, or?
The current times are more interesting because of the intersection between technology and consumer on one side, and technology and the way you serve the demand of the consumer, right? Be it from the supply chain side, be it from the internet marketing side, or be it in terms of the way you present the selection, price discovery and product discovery to your consumer. Now the rate at which you are able to discover those insights, and the speed at which you are and you can, right, choose to act on those insights has gone up, right? So a lot of disruption is coming because of this unique positioning of this intersection between technology and the rest of the things around it, which you need to serve to your consumer, and the way you need to mobilize your own back-end operations. Hence, we are, as an entrepreneur, one has to be always on toes. Disruption can come from extraneous variables, the competition, for example. A lot of it, by the way, comes internally, because our capacity to develop insights, right, is, I believe it's all-time high now. It's all-time high, yeah. It's
and
lot
what's sort
more
of
data
aiding
driven.
this great boom? I'm going to sort of get into more of what you believe needs to be done to sort of make this space more vibrant, what the government needs to do, what individuals need to do in just a bit. But what if there was one thing that you believe you could change for entrepreneurs today, the one thing, what would it be? I start by you, everyone else.
So a lot of things are already changing as we speak, right? The access to funds, right?
One thing that you could change.
One thing that I could change is I will incubate more entrepreneurs. I will personally mentor them and help them, as many entrepreneurs as I possibly can.
Okay. Sorry?
I would definitely want more women in the big game. Yeah. So I think the world's waiting for women to build unicorn companies, and that hasn't happened in a big way, right?
And the one thing you could change?
Would run lot of base camps, and will try to reach out to colleges actually.
I see. Catch them young.
Nip in the bud actually, yes,
Right.
while they are young.
I think more people should just follow their mind and heart. So it's as simple as that. Whether they are working in a company or outside, they should just do more entrepreneurial stuff.
Right. Is that easier said than done? Well, that's a perfect point for me to take a break.
Okay.
I have slipped into a break, but we'll come back. Is it really easy to do it? There are, of course, enough examples of people who are making a big success out of it, not just making a difference to them, but to the community out there at large as well. We'll slip into a quick break. Back to us. Well, the road to entrepreneurship and all the bumps and the great ride that you can have along the way is what we are looking at today. Actually, you were saying earlier that the one thing that you hope is that, or you would like to see, is that people just, if they have an entrepreneurial dream, they just get on it and they, will execute it, or they should get the chance at least, or try their hands at executing it. We'll just get into that in just a bit. But when we look at the startup space in India, the parallels are always there. There's always Silicon Valley that's looked at, Korea, for instance. There's China, and then there's a lot of chest beating around. Look at us, and look at our numbers, look at our great ideas, look at our young population, and demographic dividend, and all that is sort of thrown around. How would you map India as far as startups are concerned in the larger sort of global scenario?
I think it's one of the best times and the best places to be right now. I would really hate to be, let's say, an entrepreneur. If I was the same Yashish Dahiya and I was sitting in France, I would have a pretty tough time compared to the same Yashish Dahiya sitting in India. Of course, Silicon Valley is an exceptional place, but that is one place in the world.
Right.
And, I think Silicon Valley is, of course, ahead of us. The valuations are higher. The evolution and the speed of businesses there is higher than India, and we should be fair enough to accept that for now. We're catching up. Some of the investments you're seeing happening into some new ventures, especially the ones coming out of the Bombay Group or some of the Bangalore hubs.
Right.
I think we're in a very, very exceptional situation.
Right.
And I think we are.
It's good to know, because
yeah.
I think we've got used to looking at the glass half full, but it's sort of
Yeah.
like good to focus on the fact that, you know, we are in a great space. You know, Sari, if there's one thing that you believe was the most frustrating for you in your journey, that you are hoping that generations after you who want to sort of get into startups don't have to face, what would it be? And beyond funding, if I sort of may.
Right. So it's I don't think it's ever funding. You know, I think there is.
Yeah, I hear that over and over again. To my mind, at least
Yeah,
when I started
yeah, I mean,
reading up on this, I thought funding would be, but it turns out
it's a significant part of your story,
Sure.
but I don't think
it's be all and end all.
it's the story. But I definitely feel that India's, you know, while it's the best time to be in India, one thing we need to start looking at is solving problems without bringing importing templates from the West. And I think as a country we have an opportunity to solve problems uniquely better
I see.
and as a first, you know, and we don't have to wait for the rest of the world to do it to start doing it. We can start doing it and then take it to the rest of the world.
Right.
And there is a whole lot of developing world sitting out there which will lap these things up, because
Right.
there are a lot of demographic comparables. There is innovation possible in the Indian context. There can be a first from India. There can be large problems that we can solve for the world sitting right here.
There's a lot of even sort of government focus on startups now. You know, there are startup funds, the government's talking about it. There's a startup ministry, entrepreneurship is, you know, we've seen a new ministry. How much of that do you believe is sort of actually working for entrepreneurs on the ground?
I believe that entrepreneurs, you know, will find a way themselves, right? So with or without the government, right? And they've been doing that. And I strongly believe, you know, in line of the thread of this discussion, that it's not just 1 or 2 years that are you know, going to be very good for India. I think it's the next decade. Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic time for India and entrepreneurs in India, because of our own belief, right? I think we are as a society now believing that yes, we can solve not only problems within India, but we are now capable of going international and solving problems of the world. I think we will see more and more brands emerge out of India, and you know, of course, one of the common threads also is that money is not really a limiting factor
Right.
anymore. If you have a good idea which solves a true customer problem, if you have the capability of executing it, and if you can demonstrate scale, right? I think sky is the limit for Indian entrepreneurs.
Right. And I know that we began, you know, it's almost time to wrap up, but I know that we began with talking about risk, but you know, many of the questions that I have that have come in the last month, and I'm going to take this to you, Yashish, because you sort of said that, you know, you have to be risk averse, and I think we are, large numbers of us. But you've got lots of people writing in to say that I really want to, but there's only so much investment that I'm beginning. This is Rahul writing in to say that there's only so much investment that my father can help me with in the beginning. I don't want to blow it up.
I think the question, I think Anurag put it very aptly, and I don't think funding is the issue at all. In fact, we are overfunded as a country right now. I think the real
That's
issue.
great to know. I think that's.
I think the real issue is, and I see so many young people coming up with ideas, but the ideas are very, very half baked, and
see.
sometimes there is one can sense that this is not getting executed anywhere. It's not solving a real problem. It's just within their own mind.
So to Rahul, you would say, first crack the idea. We'll worry about the money later.
The money will always be there. I don't have a iota of doubt. If there is a good idea giving a certain amount of traction in India, there is so much funding available. The investors have nowhere to go. There are no good opportunities. That's the genuine problem the investors are facing today, is they don't know where to put the money.
That's quite incredible. Yes.
You know, today what is the risk, right? The risk will be a failed startup, right? And today failure is not a stigma in the job market at all, right? I have come from an environment or a time, right, when the early 90s and mid 90s, when failure on your CV meant that, you know, finished, it's the end of the road for you, right? But not anymore. I mean, a failed entrepreneur today, I would hire him, and I think all of us would hire a failed entrepreneur at the drop of a hat.
Stars we want on our team.
That's just incredible. I mean, I have to say that for me will perhaps be the biggest takeaway from this conversation, that failure sort of doesn't hold you back anymore. I mean, yesterday's failure could be tomorrow's big success.
Absolutely.
I mean, and people like you who are sort of potential employers, who are employers, don't sort of hold it against
We
everyone.
love hiring people who've tried something, it's not worked out. We love hiring them. They are far more aware of all the failure points than people who've just
I see.
come in with their head in the air without knowing what's going to happen
There's
next.
this little joke in the startup world which says it's so hard to find failed entrepreneurs these days.
Just one word on failed entrepreneurs I would like to add. If you want to fail, fail fast. I think that is critical. That would reduce your risks, right?
Okay.
You have an idea, you fail, you execute, you fail fast, yeah, right? Then either you can move to the other idea, or you can, take a backup plan, but fail fast. I think that's very, very important.
Right, well, that's absolutely super to know, and unfortunately it's time for me to wrap, but don't be afraid of failures. In fact, that it's not the end of the road. There is perhaps a bigger success of people like you guys out there, waiting to sort of find those who have the fire in their belly and not afraid of failure, not risk averse. But thank you all so much for taking our time to speak to us, and we do hope that people like Rahul have had their questions answered. There were a couple of more, but we'll try and get those answered for you on our later programs. Thanks all again for being here with us this morning. Well, it's a wrap on that note. If you have any questions on startups, your business ideas, entrepreneurship, send them to us and we'll try and find you the answer that we hope will help you in the long run. Well, that's it then. Goodbye.